Funny thing about being the dad of an NFL quarterback. You can try to retire your halftime pep talk, but your heart rarely gets the memo. Deion Sanders spent decades coaching his son at every stop. Trinity Christian, Jackson State, Colorado, and Sunday in Las Vegas was the first time he watched Shedeur play a game without a headset, clipboard, or a coach's checklist in hand. He called it strange and then good and healthy. He said he was in straight dad mode. That line alone tells you everything you need to know: relief, pride, and a tiny private victory lap that had nothing to do with play calls and everything to do with being a father. The win itself read like a neat subplot. Shedeur Sanders' first NFL start, a 24-10 Cleveland victory over the Raiders, and the kind of moments that bring families to the sideline. But beneath the scoreboard was the bigger story, the quiet, human one. The father who finally got to watch his kid take the field without coaching him through it. Shedeur wasn't perfect. He finished 11 of 20 for 209 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That stat line is serviceable, not cinematic. What made the day feel larger was the context. The 52-yard bomb to Isaiah Bond that broke a long Browns drought of explosive plays, the screen pass to Deion Sampson that turned into a 66-yard touchdown, and a calmness in the pocket that said, "I belong here." Those flashes are the kinds of plays that make fans clip highlights and make coaches think, okay, maybe there's something here to develop. Deion watched from a place that reads like a small-town movie beat, the visiting owner's box. Mark Davis of the Raiders offered him a seat, and Deion later thanked him publicly for it. Picture it, a Hall of Famer sitting in the opposing owner's box, watching his son make history. Deion smiled, chuckled, and thanked the Lord on camera. That felt less like PR theater and more like a dad catching his kid's first big league home run from someone else's front row seat. You also felt the history on that field. No Browns quarterback starting his first game since the team's return in 1999 had ever won in his debut. They were 0-17. Shedeur ended that streak. That's not just a quirk of trivia. It's an old, weird burden lifted. For fans who live and breathe franchise lore, that matters. It's a small, meaningful scar that the organization can finally point at and say, we're turning corners. Credit where it's due. Cleveland's defense dominated the day. The front overwhelmed a shaky Raiders line, the team registered a pile of sacks, and Myles Garrett made life miserable. That defensive identity handed Shedeur a shorter field to work with and fewer moments where he had to manufacture magic. But let's not reduce the rookie's day to he just benefited from the defense. He made a couple of throws that required timing, touch, and guts. The 52-yard rollout strike wasn't a prayer, it was placement on the run. The screen that turned into a 66-yarder required vision and timing. Those are quarterback traits, not luck. What's next matters more than the win itself. Kevin Stefanski and the Browns have choices to make. Dillon Gabriel isn't a corpse of an option. He's a rookie who's had his own starts and struggles. But giving Shedeur a real look gives the coaching staff information they didn't have before. One start doesn't crown anyone, but it does give the Browns a legitimate data point. How this kid performs with a week of first-team reps, how he handles pressure, and how his chemistry with teammates grows or stalls when asked to produce consistently. There's also the human lift for Shedeur. Playing his first game with his dad, watching as a fan, not a coach, is a gentle rite of passage. Deion's voice hasn't been absent in the narrative. He's always been loud, proud, and present. But that removal of coach's parent changes the dynamic. Deion said he was just being dad. That means he could clap in the moment instead of calculating the next adjustment. For Shedeur, that's freedom. For Deion, it's the chance to breathe through an entire fourth quarter without having to call a timeout for schematic reasons, and he seemed to savor it. Now the test jumps up a level. San Francisco awaits, a gauntlet of pressure looks, disguised fronts, and a defense that punishes mistakes. If Shedeur answers that call with poise, the Browns' quarterback debate shifts from hypothetical to urgent. If he struggles, they'll still have learned. Either way, the organization gets a clearer picture. That's why the Browns' decision to roll with him is smart. You discover your answers by testing them, not by preserving illusions. There's a deeper ripple here, too. The NFL loves stories. The rookie who breaks a franchise jinx, the Hall of Famer who finally watches as dad, the defender who forces the fragile to the mat. But the league also demands progress. History is nice. Sustained competence wins seasons. Deion's joy on Tuesday wasn't naive. It was grateful. He looked like a man who'd coached his son through every conceivable scenario and finally got to watch him stand tall without the headset. That's not naivete. It's a milestone. For the Browns, for Shedeur, and for Deion, Sunday was a tidy reminder. Football is brutal, but it's human. It provides 1,000 little chances to be tested, and once in a while it hands you a moment to sigh with relief and say, that one counted. Deion's reaction, a thank you to the grill of an opposing owner's box, a small prayer, a dad grin, was exactly the right response to a complicated day. Proud, relieved, and already quietly hungry for more. So watch the tape, yes, study the QB mechanics, the decision-making, the situational throws, but don't dim the human side. A dad finally sitting in the stands, watching his kid win his first NFL start. That's the kind of quiet magic that keeps people coming back to games between the hits and the highlights.